We want to start feet together, jumping in and out just like that, keeping them close to our hands. We don't want our feet to go way behind us because that won't feel good on our ankles when we're doing a handstand. Plus, it'll make us fall forward. So we want to, again, stay in that box. All right, next we want to get to jumping on one leg. We want to do 5 on each leg. I would recommend 3 sets of 5. You see how that back leg is kicking up? You know, that's good. Again, we want to stay in the box. See how that foot, I have it right there, it's out the box. We don't want to do that because when we try to stand up, we fall forward. That's just gravity. That's just how it's going to work, bottom line. So yeah, once you feel comfortable, you can start kicking a little higher. However, I would not kick really high on these unless you're up against the wall, which is in a part I have coming up. Right now, we're starting in a lunge. We're going to be standing up and going down. That's all we're doing here. All right, I do about 5 of those, 3 sets of 5 on each leg. You don't want your lunge to be too big because then you'll be off balance, and you don't want it too small because then when you try to go on your hands, you're just going to fall down. All right, not so much as, again, you just want to find your sweet spot for yourself. Once you feel comfortable in your sweet spot, you want to be in that lunge there, and you want to just get those hands down and coming up. During this part of the handstand, you want your shoulder on top of your wrist. Just that's all you're trying to work, keeping your shoulders over your wrist. If your shoulders get behind your wrist, you're not going to be able to get up to handstand very easily. When you're comfortable there, you can start to work your way down. And if you have another mat you can do it on, that's great. If against the wall, if not, and you only have one, then yeah, you can split it in half. Just be mindful that when you split it in half, you're going to go up a lot easier. I would not go all the way up. Again, it's just baby handstands you're doing. All right, on this first step right here. Okay, especially because you're not used to what it feels like to actually hold a handstand, which is what we're going to do in part 2. All right, so just stay along with the video. See part 2, it's coming up. All right, so right here, part 2, we're working on starting in a plank, and then you don't want to sag in a plank, and you don't want your bottom really high in a plank. You want a nice flat back, or round back is fine, but not that big archy thing we're looking at right here. So once you feel comfortable there, you're going to walk your feet up the wall. You're not going to move your hands at first. You're just going to be getting comfortable putting one foot up at a time. All right, once you're comfortable doing 1 foot at a time, and you know you can hold yourself without shaking like a tree for a good 20-30 seconds, then you're going to go ahead, start to walk a little bit closer to the wall, maybe move one hand at a time. Also be mindful of your wrists, like I'm showing right here. If you start having wrist pain, that's normal doing handstands, but you don't want to hurt yourself. You shouldn't have a ton of wrist pain. You should be a little uncomfortable, but not a lot. So just back off for a couple days or go down in numbers. Stay safe. So again, I'm just going one hand at a time, getting comfortable, because once you get really high up there and you don't know how to hold yourself up, you're going to get really tired. You're going to be shaking like a tree like that, and you're going to fall everywhere. All right, so you want to be very careful. That's what happens most of the time. It might not happen to you, but it happens a lot of time to people. Once you're comfortable, you can start walking even closer and higher up towards the wall, and that'll get you more comfortable in that handstand shape. Now we're pretty much done here with this part, so go ahead and just stay along with the rest of the video and see what happens in part 3. All right, last thing. When you're all the way up against the wall in handstand, that's great, but again, be very mindful up there. Stay very tight. You don't want your thighs on the wall. You only want your toes on the wall. All right, you don't want your belly on the wall, again, just your toes. All right, you guys, so we've done part 1 where you're working on hands on the mat and you're jumping up and down on one leg. We've done part 2 where you worked on walking up the wall to get comfortable, a lot more closer to handstand there. Now we're doing part 3 where we're actually getting really close to the floor. We're gonna use the wall for part 3. For part 3, when you're doing this, you do not want to be this far away from the wall when doing a handstand. If you're this far away and you don't know how to be tight like this, you will just crash into the wall. And I'm fairly strong enough to hold myself up. But most of you, when you're doing handstands, you're still building strength. And if you crash into the wall a few times, it's honestly, most of the time it discourages people and it honestly starts scaring them. So you don't want that. You don't want those kind of problems. So make sure when you're doing handstands, you start with your hands maybe like 2 inches from the wall at best. All right, but that's it. I'd say if my hand's all the way against the wall like it is right now, I might start about just to the bottom of my fingertips away from the wall. That's it. Because when you do this, you want your back to catch on the wall. case you're falling. See that? I'm good. All right, so I'm not gonna crash badly or anything happen. Also, when you're doing this, just like in part one, I said make sure your feet stay close to your hands. If you're up here and you're crashing down and you're hitting the ground hard, your foot's way back there. All right, that can hurt your ankle. So let's go through this. We're in our lunge, starting right here. Ears are covered. This is called a lunge if we didn't talk about it yet. Then we go ahead, we kick, hands are close, foot lands close to our hands. See, that was easy for me to stand up. Now I'm gonna try to stand up. Kick, foot, way back here. That's how I fall forward. That's actually a struggle to get up. I'm gonna try to get up this time. That's hard, because gravity, you're gonna fall forward. All right, so that's part three. Now we're starting to work towards the wall. We will not kick up all the way to the wall. We're not doing that. That's dangerous. All right, unless you just already know what you're doing. You're already there. If you're a beginner, I highly recommend just working here, little baby steps. Making sure your foot's in the right spot. Now that we're working on handstands against the wall, our goal is actually to get our hips over our wrist and our shoulders. Do not put your legs together when doing these handstands. I know that sounds a little weird. Do not put your legs together, because it's a lot easier to figure out how to control your body and step down with your legs apart. But as soon as my legs come together, like this, I'm just, boom, that foot wants to land way back there because you're falling down. All right? So legs apart is easier to figure out where to put your foot. Safety first. All right, that's part three. And then part four is when we start to prepare to do it on the floor. And I'll explain how that's gonna go. All right, you guys, so part four is where we actually learn to put our feet together in our handstand. Now, we're gonna pretend like this is the couch, all right, or your bed. Okay, at this point, you should be able to kick up and off the wall with your legs apart and control yourself. And you'll get to where you can comfortably do that. Do not do part four until you can kick up and off the wall without actually touching the wall. That's the next part. All right, so again, part four, when you're kicking up and down, you should be able to not touch the wall. You should be able to control your handstand and step down as if the wall isn't even there. That's what you need to master before doing this step. Now, when you move on to this step, we're gonna be right here. Actually, I'm not even gonna draw a box for where your feet go, because at this point we should know. So we've been learning this with our legs apart. That's how we've been learning this. So that's how we're gonna start out. So we're gonna go lunge, ears covered, kick up, one leg, other leg, boom, boom, falling over. All right, your bed is gonna be higher than this. All right, so if your bed's gonna be a lot higher, it's gonna be even easier. If you're doing this onto your couch, it's gonna be lower. So if you have a mat around, that you can use, to start on the floor with, like this is padded, but if you have a mat you can stand on and then put your hands on the mat. And then also keep in mind at this part that when you're on your couch is going to be a lot smaller to land with your feet on than your actual bed. So keep that in mind. And if you're a smaller person, like 5, 6, 7 years old, you'll be okay. But if you're like a teenager or in high school, you're going to want to use your bed because you're going to have more space to come down safely. All right, now we're on part four. So once you get comfortable hitting this lunge, hitting that handstand, just like this, again, we're not gonna fall down like this coming down because we're stuck right here. When we fall down, we wanna lean towards the mat. And then you can roll over. I wouldn't recommend honestly sitting up. I would just roll to the side or something like that. So we've got our legs apart, so I'm catching my breath a little bit. All right, we got our legs apart. Boom, we did that, we're comfortable. Now we can start getting our legs together a little quicker before we hit the mat. Start figuring out, okay, boom, there we go. All right, and at this point, you don't have to do a kick over, I was just getting off. At this point, we can now that we're comfortable falling over, start to figure out how to do our handstand without the wall. We can go legs here, oh, I'm stuck. Boom, that's okay, because look, the mat's there to catch you. See what I mean, right? And now we can go a little bit less Okay? Bam. Good to roll. And then once we know where to put our feet comfortably, all it is from a handstand is just a step down. Right? If I'm standing here and I kick my leg up like that, literally if I'm upside down the handstand, that's it. Feet together, kick it down. Boom. Done. That's it. That's how you safely come down. Make sure y'all keep practicing, figure out where the feet go. Always keep doing your conditioning. Do a little wrist injury prevention stuff. If you haven't seen those videos before, I'll link it in here. You can see it. But that's it. Proud of y'all. Y'all made it through part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. If it takes you a month, if it takes you 2, 3, 4 months, however long, if you do it in a week, if you do it in a day, it's all good. That's great. But please go ahead. Everyone's different. Take your time if you need to. All right, everybody progresses differently. I'm Coach Blake. Appreciate you staying this long for the video. Go ahead and subscribe for more tutorials, and I will see y'all later. Let's go.